I will call the Middlebury Selectboard meeting of February 24th to order. And the first item is approval of the agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any changes to the agenda requested?
That's good.
Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as drafted signify by saying aye.
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 Yeah, thumbs up.
Next is approval of the consent agenda.
I move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there anything on the consent agenda anyone would like to speak to or talk about? Any changes in the minutes? Anything in there?
Wow.
Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as drafted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thumbs up. We're gonna have this meeting done before Dan joins us at this rate. By the way, did you guys note that the speaker list is in there, the final speaker list, so, okay. Next is citizen comments. Is there anyone here for something not on the agenda? Go ahead, Ron.
Good evening, Russ Conrad, Middlebury. I wanted to ask you all on the select board if you have given thought to exploring ways to protect the residents and citizens of Middlebury should immigration customs enforcement show up and decide to start rounding people up.
Yes, I've thought about it. I've had a conversation with Jason Covey about it personally, but
Well, it just seems to me that rather than, have departments and staff trying to figure out on the fly how to interact with them, should, masked gunmen come and start making demands or whatever, it'd be good to kind of think about, how they might want to interact, what ways, if our police can, ensure that the laws of our town and state are followed by everybody when they're in town, including these immigration enforcement officers, that type of thing. And I think it would be better for them to plan things out ahead of time than try to figure it out at the spur of the moment when, a masked gunman is in their face.
Probably something to bring up with Chief. I think he'd be the lead guy on that.
he would have a very well thought out answer for what he gave to me. He should speak it.
Given the college's large population of foreign students, I think we were touching base with their head office and public safety as well.
Yeah.
They ought to be part of whatever.
Chief works with them. Yeah.
Ross mentioned this to me this week, and I added it to our department head list because I think there are other people that need to be involved in the conversation, our town clerk and others that may be asked for information. So, so we'll talk about it as a staff and report back to the board.
So at this point, the answer is no, we have not, but duly noted.
It sounds like you're willing to do it, and I appreciate that.
We have had other leaders in the state, like Mayor Emma she had an executive order about how to deal with this situation if something happens. I think it's a
Some
good
towns
thing
have
to-
adopted resolutions about this. Williston has, for example.
Yes.
I'd just like to see us think about it and be prepared as we could be.
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, thanks, Ross.
Nick Arda, Middlebury. I actually found it hard to not respond aye when all in favor came about. So it's the end of an era. Dean George and I had lunch today, and we were talking about how we were at the first meeting with Brian. Dean was the chair, I was the vice chair. And we knew Brian would be a good board member. Now, all of us know it takes about a year to really get ramped up to do this well, as you go through a learning process. But Brian was productive right from the very beginning. And as Dean and I were driving home, we were saying, Brian's going to do great things. However, we didn't realize how great they were going to be. We have a lot of stories we could tell. And in fact, we're also reflecting on our longtime colleague, Victor Novo. And if Victor was still around, he would have some stories to tell. But I was trying to think of a couple of things that showed the leadership that Brian has demonstrated at this time. And one of them that struck me was March 2020. Now, Brian and I like to ski. And so it was a nice Sunday morning. We were going to the Snow Bowl. It was my turn to drive. So I drove over to Brian's house, and he says, before we go, there's a meeting we're having on the phone. Kathleen Ramsey and Tom Hanley have arranged this with State Health. Something about this COVID thing. All right, shouldn't take too long. Well, then we found out the college leadership was on the call. Porter Hospital was on the call. And they're describing things. The college had shut down for the semester. The hospital is talking about how we potentially could be running out of beds. How the college was going to take the ice off in case we need a field hospital. And they were going to set up the dormitories for healthcare workers. And we looked at each other going, this thing is serious. This is something unprecedented. As we drove up to the Snow Bowl, got up there and found it was closed. But during that time, Brian is talking about how we're going to have to keep the town government going. We don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to have to do it. We tried having some meetings a couple of times. Some members chose to come. Some preferred to be home. We were scattered. There was here. I was sitting in that corner. We pulled it off. Ultimately, the decision was to go to virtual. I wasn't personally a fan of that, but I trusted the leadership decision. And over that next year, government continued to run. The streets were plowed. The fire trucks and the police cars showed up. Water, sewer worked. The town continued. Got through a really difficult time. The second story was during that same period. May 2020 comes along. Now, if you recall, that was the third year of a major bridge reconstruction project. That was the big year. That was the year the railroad was going to be diverted for 10 weeks. They were going to shut the downtown. They were going to excavate out the trackage area. They were going to bring in over 400 pieces of precast concrete in this choreographed operation, get that down, relay the track, rebuild the bridges, put in a new park, 10 weeks. But the governor had shut down all construction projects in the state. And we were faced with a dilemma of the project not going forward. New York State, meanwhile, saw this as an opportunity to accelerate projects. The contractor we had is based out of New York and said, we have 2 weeks to make a decision. Otherwise, we can't do the project. We have to go to New York. Brian, with his connections with the governor, the state transportation secretary, had one-on-one meetings, and this became the first project approved to move forward. Had that not happened, we would have lost not just 1 year of the bridge being finished. We would have lost at least 2 and possibly 3 because that same crew was obligated to go over Lake Placid to rebuild that following year. And then who knows what was going to happen with costs in the post-COVID world. Because of the effort of Brian, the project moved forward. It was smooth. We showed how the work could be done during this unprecedented emergency. We have this fantastic project. That's the kind of leadership this man has given us, among many, many others. So, Brian, I'm part of those of us who served with you in the past. Dean, Donna, Susan, Laura, Gary, others' names I've forgotten. We want to say thank you for what you did and job well done.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
Please. Come on, beat me up.
It's really hard to follow. I just had something really brief that I wanted to say, and I will start out by saying thank you for your service. I also found out about COVID while I was skiing at the Snow Bowl. My university called and said we're sending the kids home. Come back. We need you to deliver the curriculum virtually. It's wild.
Crazy
Anyway,
times. Hard
this
to
is
believe
a-
it's been 6 years.
I know. This is a much smaller issue, but I just want to kind of set the record straight. At the last select board meeting, I took note of your comment that the electric buses in Burlington had failed, and I hadn't heard that, and so I went back down that rabbit hole. And I thought you'd be interested in the testimony that was given by Green Mountain Transit, Clayton Clark, at the Senate Transportation Committee hearing. The 5 electric battery buses GMT received in April 2025 are currently non-operational due to a battery recall. Prior to the recall in November 2025, the buses were meeting expectations and performing well in our urban service. By the way, they bought those with an 83%. 83% of the cost was federal grant, so the money wasn't going to go to something else. But anyway, the manufacturer estimates 18 to 24 months to replace the batteries, not unlike the Bolt. To reduce the risk of fire before replacement, the manufacturer changed settings in the buses so the batteries cannot accept a charge if they are under 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's true. And unlike what has been reported in the press, this charging limitation is new and part of the recall and not an original design limitation. So they didn't screw up when they bought the buses. We're working with the manufacturer to find a solution prior to battery replacement, and we're also attempting to hold the manufacturer accountable for financial harm. Our next order of 6 electric battery buses will be delivered in 2027, and we'll have different batteries than those recalled. So hopefully
That goes better.
yeah. I mean, this is new technology, so
Yeah.
there are going to be bumps, but you have to decide that the risks are worth taking. So anyway,
Yeah,
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think everybody's,
I should say I'm speaking as a private citizen and not
That's-
as a member of the Energy Committee because I haven't had a chance to review these remarks.
understood. Yeah, and that tracks with kind of what I had read, that, you know, they will have effects. The challenge is 18 to 24 months out. It's a big loss in transportation. There's a lot of people that rely on that transportation. So, yeah. Emily, is this just an update?
It's just an update. I'm not
Wow,
really asking
I mean, we
for
don't have to
anything.
spend any money or anything tonight?
No, I'm telling you about money we're getting back.
Hey!
So I've been spending time filing all of our reimbursements for projects this past year. We've already received the funding for the work that was done in the river, just over $500,000. We got that check 2 weeks ago, I believe.
Whoa, that's great.
Yeah, there's still the outstanding work that's going to FEMA that's in that line item. So
Okay,
it's
so
not
that
down yet.
That's
but
not the FEMA portion?
It's not the FEMA report. No, it's the grant that we got to do the additional work. Halliday Road reclaim, working on that funding for $200,000, and then the 83 Court Street for that demolition work. So those accounts should be in good shape. And then I've been working on the state revolving fund applications, which is always a really good time. Submitted for 5 water fund or water loan applications. Water tank we had to resubmit on, just the way the processing works. Foot Street water line, as you all know, we have the bond vote on that one this year, and I think we're in a good position to receive that funding. Gorham Lane, I wish I had advanced that to a bond vote this year because we just had another water break out there yesterday. So I think that one will have to go next year. We'll have to move that to the top of the list. And then additional well source, I do have the engineer coming to our infrastructure committee meeting in March to look at our options for the well source and the next phase of that design effort. And then the Exchange Street redundancy project is pretty developed. We just need to work on getting some easements from property owners. Agrimark had some concerns with it, but I think we can work through it just so that, primarily so we can get some soil borings done early spring, hopefully early spring if it's accessible, so that we can figure out materials that we're working with. And then on the wastewater side, resubmitted for the overall upgrade. That one will just get bumped. It's more just to put it on their radar that we'll be looking for that funding in 2 years. The main pump station is active. We have received funding. We had to resubmit anyway, but that one will go out to bid January probably of 27. So that one should be in good shape. South Street Phase 5. that one is way more complicated than we had previously thought, and the cost has escalated significantly. So I think that will be a couple of years before we see that one get finalized. We are working on a smaller segment of it in this current cycle, but this will be for the major mainline work. And then Rogers Road Pump Station, put in for that. So that will just be sort of wherever funding lands, we'll be able to advance those projects as they're ready. They're all at a level of development, engineering wise, that we'll be able to move them forward if we get the funding. And then moving up, the South Street Phase 5 that I just mentioned, we are working on putting out a section of that project to bid this year so that we can utilize the CSO ARPA grant, which the state took it over from the feds, but there's risk of losing the funding if we don't allocate it by the end of September. We're working with them right now to see if we can get an extension, because there's some complications in that project as well, just in that small section of it. So we're working through that. We're hoping to get it out to bid maybe this week. We'll see. But that, I think we'll be in good shape for that one to get constructed. It's just a really small section.
Can
You're
you
giving me
tell us
the-
anything about the complications? I feel like
complications. So
yeah.
we last week did some cammering in the line. The way this one has switched from a few different engineering firms, it's now in Otter Creek's hands. They started comparing. They did hydraulic modeling and determined that the storm system, as the design that they inherited, was not adequately sized. So we upsized that. In doing that, where it ties in on South Main Street, they started looking through old plans for that area of town, and from talking with Luther Tenney at the college, they had some flooding issues. Well, everybody had flooding issues in August of 23, but the college, there were certain spots. So there is an old stone culvert that spans that section of town, kind of runs diagonally from from Academy out to Mill Street, and it's still active.
Used to be a ravine there, got filled in where the old town.
So it's just an
high
old
school.
French drain.
It's a 30 by 24 laid stone culvert.
Wow.
It's pretty incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah, stoneworking wise. It's
Yeah.
got to be pretty deep towards the outlet side of it. But given that it's probably 200 years old, some stone has fallen in, so there's blockage and it's undersized.
Yeah.
But now the complication is that there are significant roads, parking lots, infrastructure.
Sure. Tough
on
to get
top
to.
of it.
Yeah. 200 years, things change.
It's quite
So-
deep under
Okay.
college.
So we had been hoping to make some modifications to sort of alleviate hydraulic pressure on the outlet, but I think that's a whole separate project that we're looking
It
at.
does sound like it,
So
doesn't it?
I
Yeah.
think-
All right, that is indeed a
Yeah.
complication. Yeah.
And then we also discovered that there is a fire service line that was not in the plans,
Oops.
which would be in conflict. So we have to do some fancy footwork to sleeve it or get around that one. So just little things like that.
Little.
Little,
Just a little. Yeah. Okay.
little things. But I think it will be a relatively simple project once we get it out the door. I think there will be considerable interest in it from contractors. The main line, I'm a little more pessimistic about, but I think this section of it will see interest. The other towns that I've been talking to have been getting relatively a decent number of bids on jobs like this, so.
Good.
I think like the ARPA money is kind of drying up and towns are starting to slow down on their investments. So I think we will start, I think numbers will improve and we'll get more applicants on these. Exchange Street, we received the final design plans back with comment from V-Trans. So they're back at TCE now to do the final changes and modifications, and then those will be going out to bid. So that project should be in good shape for construction this summer. It should be wrapped up by wintertime, I would think.
When do you think that'll go out to bid?
I would think in March, I would say.
Yeah.
And so then that would
Yeah.
sign the contract April. start work May.
This is the last project that, do you remember what date did that actually get started?
2013, I think, is the
Yeah, so
first
we-
grant
that
that
was-
we got. Or maybe
Yeah,
that
we-
was the regional study that was done, that Otter Creek did. It was in that time frame though.
It was, we started that, one of my first years on the select board, and we had meetings with all the tenants and owners of property out on Exchange Street. And we were looking for ways to get it funded and everything, and it was some of the old school people that saw that as an industrial park, and it shouldn't have pedestrians. So you got a fitness center out here, and we're driving big trucks on this road, I need to get the pedestrians off the road, so
Yeah.
it'll be nice to see that. I mean, it's just a huge safety issue on
I
that
think
road.
it'll be a really good project. And I mean, I was driving it today. Yeah, and I think once we get this phase in, it'll justify more funding to complete the next phase.
That was always our intent. They
Yeah.
wouldn't give us additional funding because it got delayed, because originally we were just gonna get the pedestrians off. Then we decided we get the bicycles off and everything, and cause the bike ped movement really got involved, and so we redesigned to a wider, more expensive path, and then we had conflict, and, I had to do a lot of one-on-one meetings to end up getting our right-of-way
Yep.
signed off, so.
Yeah, I think,
that was-
I would guess that the northern section would align nicely with the roundabout too, timing wise.
Oh,
I think-
and those owners out there will sign off, I mean, that'll go much quicker now.
Yeah,
Just a matter of funding.
Yep.
The complex part was in closer to the town.
yeah, I think unfortunately the funding that we originally got was 90% with 10% match, and now
Oh, I know
what's
where we're
offered is
at.
80-20,
Yeah.
which is still decent for a project of that size, but it'll never be as good as the 90-10 for sure. So that one should be good. That I think they should. There might be some small things that they have to come back and work on in the following spring, but I think if we can get that out for construction in May, they'll be in decent shape for this year. It's not a very complicated project. And then wastewater treatment facility. We just met Wright Pierce engineers up there today to go over a few more just things that we're trying to look at. We met with the local farmer a couple weeks ago to start figuring out the solids waste handling portion of it for how we're going to move the material to the farm. And I have spent the last week working on the Northern Borders Regional Commission grant. They gave the recommendation. We had been hoping to apply for a $3 million maximum fund because it's a regional project in my eyes. That was not supported by NBRC because the footprint is not in 2 different municipalities, even though we're supporting a multitude of
Can we create a
municipalities.
retention pond in the Haven and pipe
Yeah.
it over?
Well, I think we're
Can
gonna get creative
run a
about
line to
it in a
Waybridge?
different way, so I'm submitting,
We're taking sludge
The
from
one
Brandon to
round is-
Jens, I mean,
one round is due Friday. I mean, the pre-application is due Friday, and so in this round, I am submitting just for the septic handling facility upgrades, which is like 1.7 million. And so we'll submit for that, and then as we develop the plans further, I'll submit separately for the blowers and that upgrade. So I think I'll just try to segment it out. It might mean that the overall project gets phased a little bit more than intentionally, or the original intent, but I think we'll achieve better funding by doing it. I hope.
Any more discussions with, for Jens on?
We've started discussing it with them. The intent is that we will be taking their sludge, so
So
we're
that is the
designing.
intent?
Yep, we're designing it to accept that, and they are leaving that out of their design, so,
That helps
Good.
pay for our,
yeah, absolutely.
that's great.
Yep.
Okay.
So that project's moving forward, and then the two items that we discussed more at length at infrastructure were, I've been working with VHB structural engineers to get an updated Cross Street Bridge maintenance plan. The previous one that we had was 2017, so before COVID and all of the cost escalation that came along with it. And so we got a revised plan from them, which did a pretty thorough job, but just looking out at how much we should be setting aside for the Cross Street Bridge maintenance. We have some significant repairs that have to occur between now and 2030, including this summer. We are going to do some work on the bridge joints, which failed earlier than what they're supposed to be a 50-year item, but we need to rework those. So I played around with the numbers a little bit, but I'm comfortable if we look at it moving forward, if we set aside like $325,000, I think was my final recommendation for the next few cycles. And then as we move forward, I will get out of some of those 2030 costs, and we'll be able to space out saving and planning for it. And then I think we just need to redo this effort more often, every 5 years, I would say, depending on what the market is looking like, just so that we can keep it in line with what
And just
current
comment
trends are.
from the infrastructure committee that it was important to receive this. I mean, just in the challenges that the board has faced this year, you know, we've had to cut significantly the capital improvements fund, defer some projects. So the prospect of adding $325,000 a year each year to meet the capital plan for maintenance and is a pretty significant thing to take on. And so we were already worrying, as you know, about the demands on the local option money. So it's a significant thing. And the minutes of the infrastructure committee were just posted today, and have some discussion about that. And the other comment I would make about the wastewater treatment plant is that an important decision is coming up, and there's been discussion with the energy committee and a bit with the infrastructure committee about the decision on the big new energy use of the sludge drying. And ideally, it would be nice to be able to do it, speaking on behalf of the energy committee, they have, as you might expect, are interested in something that's electric and doesn't use to have greenhouse gas issues. But projecting the energy costs going forward, which we hope will be a 25-year life, because this is a $20 million piece of the project.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, there's a boiler that's going to boil mineral oil to 400 degrees, and if we could it'd be possible to switch fuels depending on whatever happens with energy costs 25 years from now, who knows. And the energy committee is quite interested in this, and also interested in the waste heat usage and adjacent properties out there, and what that could do. So I'm just saying there's a discussion that I guess is going to happen this spring on that, with the projections and costing that there's a lot of interest in from those committees.
Then the last item that we went through was teen center and police department, the energy and heating needs at both. I think the way we left it, do you want to speak to this? Do you want to? You can if you want. The way we left it was there's a considerable amount of funding in the energy efficiency capital fund. I think we are going to look at getting new studies done to look at the actual envelope at the teen center and the police station, just to see what's going on in those buildings, because some improvements have been made in each of them, and then weatherize the buildings using that funding And that way, when we move forward with investing in, I think we'll probably still be able to invest in heat pumps at the teen center with what we have available. The police station is a bit of a bigger lift, given the size of the infrastructure that needs to go in, but at least that way we're keeping the heat in the building once we get to that point in the conversation.
And the cold.
Jamie Hand, who's a mechanical engineer, valued member of the Energy Committee, made a recommendation on this, that of the 6 air rooftop units in the police facility, they're not likely to all die at once, hopefully. That they be replaced in kind, but with units that are electric heat pumps but have natural gas backup and are like the recreation building. So, in particularly cold times, or there's that. So that was a recommendation for a hybrid system that the Energy Committee supported. And I think getting current quotes for that and finding out what the current incentives are from Green Mountain Power and Vermont Gas to be ready when one of those units decides to its life is over. There was also some discussion about this building and its ailing HVAC system. Anyway, there's a lot to be prepared for and ready for, and our capital needs are significant. So while we have 90,000 in the Energy Efficiency Fund, that's nowhere near enough to do the units at the police altogether, much less, we don't even know the scope of what's needed in this building. There's a lot we need to find money for in future years.
It's all true.
It's all true.
How's the salt inventory?
The what?
The salt. We still have some salt.
The inventory of our
We don't have much salt. We have some salt. We have the opportunity to get salt from the district if we get into a really dire situation. I think they're trying to minimize salt usage as much as possible. We got 2 loads 2 weeks ago, and we were told that's it for a while. Our crew drove up to the salt shed in Shelburne, where it comes in on rail that it gets hauled here from, and that shed has some salt, but not enough to supply all the municipalities desperately in need. So
Yeah.
mixing.
we've been mixing it with sand, cutting it. The last 2 loads we got were the regular rock salt, not treated salt. So I think I've been talking to Matt about different approaches, and I think we're gonna look at it early. Get out of the winter first, but look at putting brine tanks or something on trucks for.
So sand.
Didn't we do that some years ago?
They have one that we could resurrect and use.
Okay, so we did do,
You did a version of it.
yeah, okay.
So can't we use sand or more
We
sand?
can, so we can use sand. Sand comes with its own issues and concerns. It is not great for stormwater, clogs all of our
It just sits
drainage
on it, yeah.
structures, and the silica dust is really harmful. So it's not a great solution. That's why we've been trying to cut the salt with
The
sand.
salt also has its own problems, right?
Salt has a lot of its own problems,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
We don't see it, but
Yeah, it's not ideal either way. I think we're fortunate that we had calibrated all of our trucks and changed our methodology this year because we did have such a harsh early winter. I think we'd really be in trouble if, we were using double the application rates even last year. So
Wow.
the fact that we went into this year. with
we're
this
lucky we're
new-
not Boston today.
Yeah, no kidding. So yeah, I think I just sat through a webinar with the state, with them trying to figure out some solutions. Just 'cause it's the entire region, it's not just Vermont.
Right.
So it's just an issue region-wide this year.
Megan, I just noticed your hand, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this sounded crazy to me, but I recently heard from a friend who lives in Utah that they use beet juice for the same. I don't know if that's anything that's ever come up, or it sounds crazy.
Yeah,
but
I told
maybe
Mark
it's
I was
also-
going to start
It's
growing
gonna be
beets.
red.
It is, molasses is used, beet juice is used, some municipalities in Vermont have used it. Yeah.
Beet juice.
That's what we put inside tires to add weight because it doesn't freeze. So
Yeah.
we started using
Really?
it because calcium chloride is so caustic, the rims would rust out.
Rust
And
out,
for
yeah.
the last 20 years, we've used that. Has a great smell.
I had no idea. I just had no idea there was this other use for beet juice.
Yeah.
Although, where do you get it in such large quantities? I guess that would be.
In the beet shop.
It comes out of Albany. They bring it in on rail tankers and then they truck it up from there.
So,
Fascinating. I just wanted to put that in the. Is it possible?
the last question, we talked about Exchange Street. Are we still negotiating with the V-Trans about a crossing, or is that a done deal and we're not gonna get it? For the Seymour Street emergency?
Yeah, that wouldn't be Exchange Street, but there was, oh my God. what did we-
For the flooding
There was an issue
issue?
on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
crossing so we can have emergency access to Seymour.
So V-Trans declined the opportunity
I-
for
yeah, I
a rail
remember that.
crossing, but we do have the possibility with a little bit more engineering to do Printer's Alley. We would have to
See, I thought we
change-
were coming down the back way there.
Mhm. And that, which also, I don't know if you've seen the TOD imagery that, it's not in the.
Transit-oriented design is
Yeah.
TOD.
No,
So that sort of went with a similar theme on Printer's Alley of realigning things. So I think there is potential. We do have a $30,000 grant to invest in modifications as needed. And I started working with the engineers on looking at
I'm
it.
sure you're gonna hear from people this year also. The last
Sure.
2 years have been horrible. July
Yeah.
10th, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna go through that again.
yes, and V-Trans point to us is we do have access because we can get down Printer's Alley.
Yeah,
We just have to go down and clear the way.
I think it was our ladder truck that had, the turning radius on the ladder truck was the most challenging.
That was the most challenging.
Everything else
We
we do.
didn't never try that. I'm not sure the chief really wants to.
Well, I got his turning radiuses and we engineered it in to see that we would lose a corner of a building and a section of a curb. But we can change the curb and then we don't lose the corner of a building.
Yeah. That was like me driving in Spain this last week. What is it called in Boston? Sturo?
Starro, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, mine was narrow. I'm going down this single lane and the buildings aren't parallel. They're coming in. So pretty soon my mirrors on both sides are like scraped. So I fold them in. I'm like, there's no way. So now I got to back a block and a half on a one-way road. All I could see, and they also brought horse and buggy down that road. And I was like, oh, I hope they don't start down this road. Somebody get to the end of the road and hold everybody
I
up.
think their emergency vehicles are a lot smaller than.
Well, I had a van, so I had a crew, but it's quite a tour guide.
That's it.
Okay,
Great.
well, that's a lot. Thank you for the update. That
Yeah.
was informative.
Thank you for your years of service.
Yeah. I miss you. Thanks for everything you're doing. I have a placeholder and select board member concerns. Does that mean there's nothing else?
That's correct.
That does. Okay. Select board member concerns. I'm going to start with you on the screen because you usually get forgotten. So Megan.
Yeah, my concern is, I know I'm on the list for speaking at town meeting about the tax schedule, and I'm just wondering when I get, how to know what I'm doing. I would like to, should I come in at some point this week to go over what I'm saying, or will I be given a script, or what's the deal?
You have to make a speech.
No,
Two dates. Just remember
Draft-
2 dates.
Draft slides, when are the slides coming
Okay.
out?
So those 2 dates will be written on a slide, and I will just
Yeah.
say them out.
That's pretty much it.
I'll connect with
great.
you. I'll connect with you this week,
The
Megan.
softball.
And usually, if there are questions, you can just redirect them to staff.
Hey, Megan, did you hear that? Mark said he would connect with you this week.
Okay, great. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Dan?
I have no concerns.
Good. Fred?
I want to acknowledge the work that goes into a town report. Beth Dow has done this for years, and she didn't even put her name in as the report editor, assembler, and she tends to use the last year's report. And some new things happened this year that just one of the appointed officials that is, and I talked to Beth about this today, so she's not going to have a cow. She endured 30 years of me editing with staff members, so I've learned to warm her up to my editing. One of the appointed officials that's a fairly important appointed official, whose name is not in the town report, is Mark Prohensky. You deserve to be recognized. People look at this in the future and say, who is the town manager? We have a new town manager. Anyway, that's just, you laugh, but Beth, we'd be mortified. I'm not criticizing. There are a few other community boards and volunteers that just weren't listed last year or didn't pop up, but the Downtown Improvement District Commission, for example, this is on page 8. There's a half a page there, and you say, what? And Richard McCurr's here, our Addison County Economic Development Corporation delegate. There are more people in the Public Health and Safety Committee than just those listed there. And there are other committees that have been active that could be mentioned. Anyway, I want to not be critical, but it is important to recognize the volunteers that we have. People, in my experience, will volunteer for things if they think they can be acknowledged and if they think their contribution will make a difference. So if there ever is an addendum to the town report, not the least for recognizing our town manager, who a lot of people don't know yet, but anyway, I left a copy of this one with Beth, anyway, that's the main thing I wanted to.
I think Fred just volunteered for a new position as being the proofreader of the town report for next year.
No, you don't understand, Beth.
No, I think it needs to be proofread. I'm serious.
Yeah, it's one of my flaws is I read stuff.
That's a flaw.
No, it's
Interesting.
It's a job.
Okay.
Thank you, I think.
Thanks, Fred.
Just want to say thank you for being a great mentor, a great leader, welcoming me when I joined, and being a very fair and efficient leader over these years.
Thanks. Rod?
So we are in the holy month of Ramadan, so I want to wish you all well and peace and happiness in this world. I am a man of few words, so I'm just going to say thank you, Brian, for everything you have done for us, for the community. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, now I have to do that too, Brian, of course. Yeah, thanks. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been enjoyable. It's been very fulfilling.
We have to put up with the next one.
Oh, yes, exactly. So I'll miss you guys.
Thank you.
I feel like we've done a lot of good. There's still a lot of challenges as we know ahead. And it's a great opportunity for somebody with energy to come in and have an opportunity to make a difference. So, thank you guys for being just a great board. It's one of the things I've always been very proud about our board is that we have quality deliberation, and then that everybody supports when we make a decision. And doesn't mean everybody has to fully agree with it, but they understand that what's good for the masses is what's, we need to make a decision, and then it needs to go forward. So people have done a really nice job over the years of speaking out and making their voice heard. And I feel like the board has done a really good job of listening and weighing that in their decisions. And so I've been very proud about the way this board has operated. So I've very much enjoyed it. So love this town. So
I'm sure you'll be around.
what's that?
I'm sure you'll be around.
I'll be around. Yeah, I think my father was always a volunteer guy, did a lot of different things, and so it's in your blood. You want to give back, so appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we do have a need for several things in executive session, so I have somebody take us into executive session.
I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding the negotiation of a contract would clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the town's position on the contract provisions to be negotiated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to enter into executive sessions with the inclusion of the town manager and finance director,
He's here.
He's here.
as well as the assistant town manager and director of administration, to discuss the negotiation of a contract as allowed under Title I, Section 313A1A, and on a separate matter regarding the evaluation of public officer or employee as allowed under Title I, Section 313A3.
Second.
All in favor?
I'd like to make an amendment to that.
Please.
I would like not to have the finance director in here for this part of this meeting. Maybe after we talk, bring the finance director in, but I don't want to bring.
It's optional.
Well, my option I'm trying to exercise is that I would
Yes.
not like to have him in here as a start.
I think that's fine. I think we have to announce anyone who will
Yeah,
be
I-
able
I-
to participate in executive
I
session.
agree, I understand. Got it.
Okay.
Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so I declare us moving into executive session at 7:46. did.
Yeah, we
motion-
clearly,
mo-
we
motion
clearly
to-
left executive session at 8:30.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Wait, did we say?
Hold on.
We are back. and-
Motion to exit.
Yeah,
Second.
Okay, so
All in
your
favor?
lights are
Aye.
Aye.
okay, okay.
No,
Aye.
he needs to be ready for us.
Well, no, we just wanted to come out of.
Out of public session, you are now in public session.
We're now in public session.
Before you start a motion, I want to let you know that he's not ready.
Yeah. You tell us when you're ready.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
on,
he's ready.
we're on.
No? Okay. So I'll make a motion to get into a contract with Nick for the finance department. Is that enough
To support the town manager.
to support the town manager's recommendation?
I think supporting the concept is a friendly amendment. I would move to support the concept of developing a contract with the finance director, subject to the actual proposed contract coming back to the board for approval.
You good with that?
I'm good.
So you're second again with your friendly amendment?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Okay,
And I'd like to make a motion, endorsing the, review of
For town manager.
the town manager.
I second.
moved and seconded. Any comments on that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 And I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Nay. No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hope you feel better, Megan.
What are you gonna do yourself?
Yay, Brian!
Oh, wow, guys.